Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today, I have a different sort of upload, something that, well, I don't know, just makes sense to me. Before we get into it, though, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description below. My merch displayed directly under this video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get into today's upload. Shall we? First and foremost, I'd like to share with you a phone call that took place yesterday afternoon. So I ended up calling the Cox County, Tennessee Sheriff's Department. And when I did get some answers. Vague answers, but less vague answers than the media gives us. So it was actually sort of a success, I guess. Now, New York State is a one-person consent state, meaning it only takes one person in that conversation to know that the conversation is recorded for it to be legal. And being that I live in upstate New York, that falls around me. So I recorded the conversation, but kind of bit me in the butt. And you'll see why in a moment. So when I contact them, I first speak to a female deputy and ask for the public relations department. She asks me for what, and I tell her for the Amber Miller and Tony Aaron's case. I'm doing some research on that, and she switches me over. Well, I get a male lead detective or head detective, and right off the bat, he's kind of apprehensive. Also, he's the head detective, so he's kind of schmug a little bit. And I just flat out say, got some questions I'd like to ask in regards to Amber Miller and Tony Aaron's. He asks me my name. I act like I'm being sly and say, well, my name is Jeffrey Michael. I'm an independent. Got some research that I'm doing. I just kind of like to know. He asks me who I work for. I say, I'm a freelancer. So right off the bat, he and I are it's kind of strange. And I ask first, what is the listing of, or how is it listed that cause of death for Tony Aaron's and Amber Miller? I said I got 6 questions, all pertaining to kind of what the newspaper has put in there. I understand that, you may not be able to answer some things, but this is after he tells me it's still an open case. And at that time, I'm like, okay, well, he then says both victims are labeled as accidental animal attacks. Not dog attacks, animal attacks. So then I'm like, well, here's a question that the media has not shared with us since September of 2021. Last we knew, Charles Owensby was back in jail for filing a false claim. And he states that he's out of jail. Awesome. Not awesome, because obviously we know Charles Owensby is not an upstanding citizen. But thank you for the update. I'm getting somewhere now, a little bit, with the kind of questioning. He's kind of calmed down a little bit. He's less schmug and just kind of, I think he was feeling me out because he was kind of unaware of, or he was just leery. What was this guy from? He's got a different accent than me. He sounds like he's from the north, calling about a case that we have ongoing down here. And of course, I can feel it, and I said, listen, I'm not trying to be rude, trying to stir anything up. I'm just fascinated with this case. There's a lot of moving parts here, and I just kind of would like to know, certain things that have just popped out at me. I'm just really fascinated since April 2nd, and I heard how Tony Aarons was left on the scene. I said, and then 2 months later, you've got another victim in the exact same location. He states to me, no, it's not in the same exact location. It's in the general area. There's another thing we're not aware of, because the media makes us think that it's in the same exact location. Like it's Tony Aarons was found right in Charles Owensby's front yard. Now here's Amber Miller right in his front yard again, a couple months later. So I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And he kind of makes a joke, you should have my job. And I'm like, yeah, that's funny. I wanted to be a police officer when I was younger. A lot of my family members were police officers. And so, it's just something that I thought about when I was younger, but destiny proved otherwise. I said, listen, I just got a couple more questions. I understand. And then he states how the chief has a kind of silence policy around this case. And in the middle of this, he then, I think he knew I was recording it. But like I said, New York State is a one-person consent state. And he asks me he kind of emphasizes my name again, and then my phone number, I didn't hit *67. So he just rattles my phone number off, and I'm like, crap. I'm like, now I've got to edit this and it's going to be a headache now, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to share the whole conversation, no editing, so you guys could have the experience that I had. And then I kind of pushed past that a little bit, and I said, well, here's something. I said, why didn't the 3 dogs that were on scene with Amber Miller attack the Good Samaritan if they were the dogs in question. He states, those were not the dogs in question. Really? That's how the media made it sound. They really kind of zeroed in on those 3 dogs, which I stated to him. I said, anyone with kind of any sort of veterinary background or that even had a dog as a pet or just is familiar with how dogs are in general knows that if a dog or dogs did that kind of damage to somebody and then is licking their wounds is very strange, on top of letting a person on the scene remove their prey, because at that point that's what it would be, would then attack that person. He said there was another case of dogs in the area, so on and so forth. I'm like, wow, okay. Mind you, I still had a couple of questions, but that killed question 4 and 5, because 4 was, what if anything happened to the supposed dogs attacked by both Vicks? But I slide that in and I said, well, what about the dogs that were taken when you guys executed your warrant on Owensby's? He said there was only one dog. There's only one dog in custody at this point. None have been euthanized. There's not been a euthanization, but there's still one dog in custody. So we're talking almost a year of this dog being in custody. Yeah, almost a year. Just shy. 2 weeks shy of a year. No, yeah, somewhere around there. Which I don't know how the legal system works when it comes to a dog, but it's kind of strange. Whatever. You've got these autopsies that are coming back. You've got this dog that you can easily get DNA from. These autopsies that I'm sure there was DNA all over, but you're not linking the two, but you still have this dog in custody. Whatever. So then at that point, he decides the questioning or interview is over. And he says, listen. And he kind of kept poking at my name because I'm not from Cott County, Tennessee. And I'm saying, my name's Jeffrey Michael, which definitely sounds like a strange name. Because he said, I've never heard of a name like that before. And I'm just like, yep. Well, that's my name, because it is. And he said, well, I'd like to pass this information off to the chief, and I'll take your number. And he rattles my number off again. I swear, I'm like, oh my God. To the chief and have him call you, and maybe he can answer some of your questions. And at that point I was like, that would be great. That would truly be great. That's who I want to talk to. I want someone that can, answer some questions that I have. And if they can't, well, you're the chief. At that point, I'm at the top rung of the ladder. So, as of right now, I'm waiting for the chief. So then after the call ends, I pull up the phone conversation on my computer so I can edit the 2 times my phone number was dropped in the conversation, because I'm so sly, like I thought, like just such an idiot. and didn't hit *6-7. So I go to start, editing, and all of a sudden my daughter, who was homeschooled, needed help. And I'm like, oh man. So being completely off my game at this point, I leave my room, my studio, and I left the editing software open and still going. I come back and there's like 20 seconds of conversation left. And I'm like, wait, what just happened here? The whole conversation deleted except for he and I first talking, like the 20 seconds of our conversation. And I was like, oh my God. But I did get some answers. And hopefully the chief contacts me because, and I'm not here to slander or I just want these answers because this is a very strange case. You've got a homeless camp right down the road, and I've got a subscriber who went down there and people stated to him that there is something going on in the woods out there. Supposedly Tony Aarons was from that same homeless camp, from what I'm getting out of the media, under this trestle. That was the first thing the subscriber stated to me, was this trestle. And I remember when I took Google Earth and I walked down Jimtown Road, and it's a very isolated area. I mean, it's not Deliverance isolated, but it's still very creepy. A couple houses here, couple houses there, here a house, there a house. Not everywhere a house. It's just real strange. If you guys get a chance to do that, do it, because it's actually pretty cool. And just start with like 522 and walk down. You'll see, if you go toward where the trestle is, you'll come to like one house, and then a little ways down there's just this, it's all like just briars, and it looks like there were possibly houses out there at one time, and then just nature took over. But then there's a house kind of in the middle of the road, not in the road, but in the middle of the road on this, obviously, you know what I'm saying. That's just nature has reclaimed. It's a very desolate, creepy, unwelcoming area. A place where I would expect a dogman or any kind of creature of that caliber to live, which is truly, truly terrifying to me. So that's the update that I have for you guys. Not a big one, but yeah, it kind of is, because at least now we know Owensby isn't out of jail. And now we know that the dogs in question, or what the media thought or made us seem were in question, are not. And, it's just, this case has bothered me since, because like I said, there are so many moving parts, and I'm maybe reading into some things, but I don't think I am. I really think Charles Owensby saw the attacks. I think the government, local, state, and federal, are hiding it from us. and I think they wanted to kind of silence him, possibly with incarceration, then whatever else happened. Um, they claimed someone shot through his camper, and then they isolated him again. And I feel like at that point, they pretty much quieted him down. They said, listen, dude, you want to be outside, you want freedom, shut up about what you know. And you can be out there with your family and friends. Otherwise, you go talking, and we're going to bring you right back in. So that's where I'm at right now with the case. I still feel that there's a lot we're not being told, and the case just still doesn't feel right to me. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys, and hopefully I can get a call from the chief. Hopefully we can get some more information, because even though the information is vague, we can honestly start putting things together with that information. You kind of look, that I literally have over 150 pages of just paperwork on this case. And there are so many different things that don't line up. Like the statement that was made about Amber Miller on July 18th, when the day she passed away, she had stated to the hospital that she had fallen in a bush. That doesn't make sense. That's only in one article that I found. So just little things like that kind of really push me to want to find out more answers. So moving on. I'm talking to a friend after, or actually in between the day, and not DJ, someone else from Tazewell. It seems like I've got 6 or 7 subscribers from the Tazewell County area. And they tell me that just recently they had gotten kind of pulled over for like a light or something being out, nothing. And they were talking to the police officer, and just kind of said, hey, what happened with the body that was found under the Doran Raven Bridge? Was that right in the water? What was the deal with that? And he said, no, it was like 600 and something feet off the beaten path a little bit. And it was tore up real bad. Not something you'd expect from a suicide or natural decomposition in the water. Just real tore up, plus it wasn't in the water. I found that kind of interesting because, what's that say to us? To me, it tells me that, yep, this is a Dogman attack. I didn't think this year would be as bad as it is. But 2021 was a very strange year. 2020 was as well, with these attacks. And there isn't an attack in the last couple of years that I haven't looked at or covered. I've looked at, I've had a couple subscribers send me some stuff, and I've looked at it, and it just a regular kind of missing persons, still sad, tragic, but nothing that pops out as this was a Dogman attack. What's going on in the Virginia, West Virginia, Tennessee area for some reason is it's a hotbed, man. It's a hotbed. And I don't know why. I don't think we ever will know why. But it's still here. It's 4 in the morning right now, and I'm recording this. I haven't not slept because I'm looking at these papers. I'm looking at these cases. I've got 2 cups of hot tea next to me that are spent, and a Coca-Cola, and I'm wide awake because I cannot sleep because I am so fascinated isn't even a word for this anymore. I want to know what is going on, and I don't know why. I think it's just because I want to bring the news to everybody, and I just, I did lay down at like 1 in the morning. I laid down and I found myself back here at 1:30 going through paperwork. It's truly insane. All I know is there's something going on. I don't know if it's the rapture or what, or if this is just a natural course of events for these creatures. But to me, something's off. Something's truly off, and I don't know what it is. I just know that it's there. I know that since 1994, I've been obsessed with these things. Obsessed. I've gotten a lot of new subscribers lately. And my obsession began on a summer's night. A late summer's night. With 4 friends and myself. Just being kids. And we encountered a Dogman. We encountered more than one Dogman. And this is how my brain works now, man. It's just that my encounter haunts me still to this day. It haunts me, and it only makes me question more. I only want more questions, man. That night was like any other night. We're driving around, hanging out. Myself, 2 of my guy friends, and 2 of our girlfriends. We're not drinking. We're not smoking weed. We weren't doing anything. We were smoking cigarettes, and we had soda. We had Surge. Surge was out at that time. We come to this cul-de-sac. We're parked. We're listening to Biohazard. I'll never forget the night. I'll never forget it. We're listening to Biohazard. I remember kind of doing my stupid dance, like just acting like a fool, having fun. And this just horrific scream comes from out of the woods. And then there was another one. Like they were communicating. And we all stopped and looked at each other. The driver of the car was sitting in the car. He heard the scream, and he turned the music down. Where we're parked on the outside edge of the cul-de-sac. So a cul-de-sac up here is kind of a U-shaped formation in the woods. So, you know, like up the road, there's an entrance and it goes around in like a horseshoe pattern and exits. We're on the exiting side closest to the main road. Beyond that is woods, deep woods. You go back there and it's just deep. You'll come to a river, you come to the Hudson River. Across that is more woods. There's a mountain. Literally, you could go forever, man. And you'll hit woods, farmland, woods, farmland. Prior to or on top of the mountain, though, is an abandoned prison now. It's a haunted prison. There's been TV shows about it. Now, where I live, there's been a lot of TV shows about haunted areas. And Finding Bigfoot spent some time up here. We actually have Tom Mezek disappeared up here. And if you're new to the channel, I did a big case about that. Family members that were in the search team and in the investigative department team of it. So where I live is a very strange area. So anyway, we stop and we're looking like, what's that? And one of the girls goes, vampire. Like, I'll never forget how she said it either. Like, it was just terror. Just terror. And I remember, like, the girls grabbed each other's arms and ran to the car and got in the back seat. And the driver of the car, Gabe, was like, he had his head out the window looking around. Myself and my friend Martin are outside by the passenger side of the car, but we're in front. We're like by the passenger side headlight. And I'm looking and we're looking, and there's these eyes coming from the woods towards us, but further down the cul-de-sac. 5 or 6. 3 are closer. A couple are off in the distance. And then by the time they're in front of us, they were there very quickly. It was unbelievably quick how they were there. Different heights, ranging from like 4.5 to 7, 8 feet tall. But then 20, 30 feet down toward where we entered the cul-de-sac, there's still a couple down that way. These ones in front of us are making their presence known. At the time, I couldn't figure out what was going on. But looking back on it, I've really analyzed it. And I think the ones that were in front of us were like a kill team, but keeping us distracted so the others down there could cross the road and go into the small patch of woods behind us. Because literally it was a small patch of woods, but they still could have easily maneuvered through it without being seen from the main road or where we were. We could see their eyes though, because these were like a they weren't like this orangish, hellish light that people say. They were a very dull yellow, but bright, if that makes sense. It's just this very strange yellow. Martin's at the point that he's in the car. He's almost in the car. He's Czechoslovakian, sounding like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Jeff, get in the car. I'm baffled, confused. I'm not being brave at all. Being brave was not even a thing in my mind at that point. I'm like, what is going on? I get in the car. The girls are in the back. Martin's in the middle of the front seat because we're in a Caprice Classic. Just big bench seats. This thing's a land yacht. As we're pulling out of the cul-de-sac, there's a stop sign. And Gabe stops at the stop sign, man. Like, we're 30 feet from where these things are in the woods. I look over. Well, we all looked over. I think one of the girls. This thing comes out of the woods and literally stands in this clearing, a very small clearing where a house is going to be. Because on the side where these creatures are coming from are all these skeletonized houses. They're not even built yet. They're just, the framework is up. The basement's dug, the basement's, the blocks have been laid, the foundation's ready, they've got the build up, but they are far from being houses. And where this thing is standing is where there's going to be a skeletonized house very soon. It's sandy soil because in that location is a lot of pine. So it's just very crappy soil. This thing doesn't look like anything. I probably got 15 seconds to see it. It was very tall. It did not look like the Van Helsing movie or Helsing movie. It looked truthfully like it could just destroy one of those things. It looked like a abomination of nature. It did not look like it belonged on this planet, let alone in upstate New York. How it moved and how it looked like it should move didn't match. It was very tall. It had, the muzzle was 5 inches maybe. It was very strange. It was not like a German Shepherd. It was more or less like a hound dog, maybe like a blue tick or something, shorter than a shepherd, longer than a beagle. I don't know. It's hard to explain. The ears were located on top of its head. They were not huge bunny looking ears. They're big, but they're not huge. What I remember most is the height and how it moved and how unnatural it looked. And then we left. We dropped everyone off. I lived 3 houses down from Martin, so Gabe drops the girls off, drops me and Martin off at Martin's house, and I literally run home. Like, I ran. Next day, I'm down at Martin's, and we're like, let's go back. I want to see if we can see anything. He's like, yeah, let's go, Jeff. So he's got this old S10, and we drive down there, and we first stop at where we saw the creature. And this is 1994. There's no internet, there's no cell phones, there's nothing. I mean, if you grew up in that time and you think about what we live in now, it's definitely a weird time. Um, we saw some tracks that were definitely not any animal tracks I've ever seen in my life. Like I've seen a lot of tracks where I've grown up. Like we've got a lot of woods. I've woken up one day and there was a horse that escaped from a pen in my backyard once. So like it's just we've had deer in our backyard. We've got a lot of fox, just a ton of stuff, man. It's upstate New York. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, just Google the Adirondacks, and that's where I live. We go down to where we were parked. We park where we were, and we walk across the way. And we're looking into where these things were. And this guy screams at us. He's like the foreman of the building company that are working on these houses. And he's not nice at first. He's like, da, 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 a couple F-bombs dropped. What are you doing around here? Da 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 da. And we just come up with, we're looking for our dog. We're looking for my friend's dog. And he stops and he goes, last night when we were, getting ready to head out after we had secured the area and, closed shop for the day, or during that time, we heard what sounded like a small pack of coyote with dogs out in the back there. So, which was, we were just like, we looked at each other, Martin and I, and we were like, oh, okay, thank you. And we left. Thinking back, those creatures were there that day. I really think those creatures were watching the workers, man, and just roaming through the woods. So that's what led me into this, because after that I went to bookstores. I went to an old used bookstore, and I picked up my first cryptid book. Right, I still have it to this day. And I think that's the day that I became obsessed. I don't know. I know that after that, I, lived a life before I started the channel, 20 something years. But I was always fascinated with, that day going to that bookstore, I'd gotten, it was a Sasquatch cryptid book. It's mainly full of Bigfoot facts, if that's what you want to call it. But I got, like I said in the interview that I had the other day with John Bell, I got my very first, I was introduced to Aleister Crowley there. I got that book as well. And at that point, after that, I started buying any kind of book about cryptids, any kind of book about alchemy, or magic, paranormal, the obsession started. And I part of me thinks that because I saw what I saw that evening and lived and was safe, and I'm still safe, and there's others that aren't, that I just want to kind of bring the truth to people about these things. All I know is I can't stop sometimes researching. Like I said, it's now 5 in the morning and I've slept maybe an hour, a half an hour. And I came back in here and just started. I actually started looking into. I grabbed the stack of papers and started looking at Brenda Hamilton's case to read to see if there was something that pops out of that case and the Tennessee cases and what's going on in Virginia. I'm constantly just, it's insane. It's insane. But I don't think I'll ever stop until I have something that tells my brain to stop, that you got it. But will I have it? I don't know. I don't think so. And until then, all I can say is everyone needs to be careful. You really need to kind of have your head on a swivel when you're out near the wooded area. The woods are too beautiful not to enjoy, but I mean, with these things out there, how can you anymore? How can you? Anyway, that's why I am obsessed with doing what I do. I just want answers for myself and for you guys. And I don't think I'll ever stop. I really don't. Even if I got definitive proof, I don't think I'll stop. Even if the government one day releases facts that they exist, finally, I think I'll still look at these cases or new ones as they come, because they come so quickly. I mean, God, man. Christopher Whiteley in Texas was torn up by an animal. An animal. The police department down there said it was a mountain lion. The DEC, or not DEC, the DNR state that it's not a mountain lion, but they all say it's an animal attack. Doesn't end, man. It really doesn't end. Be safe, all right, guys? Be safe. Kind of question everything, you know? I mean, Mueller had it right. Question everything. Mulder, X-Files. Yeah, Fox Mulder. He had it right. Question everything. Leave no stone unturned. And with that, I'm going to bid you farewell. Please be safe. Please practice kindness. May the Great Spirit be with us all. And may He guide us down that path that we call life. Until later on tonight, my friends.